Well, good afternoon, Rotarians.
Good afternoon.
All right, looking good out there today. Calling our first meeting of June to order for the Rotary Club of Des Moines. I'm President Kevin Kassir. First of all, as we do, we'd like to thank our greeters. We had Todd Wheeler and Jen Miller, so thank you two for stepping up today. We have a full agenda for our meeting, so we're going to get right to it by inviting Scott Bennett up to lead us in a moment of inspiration, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance and the four-way test, and we'll have an opportunity to greet each other. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, President Kevin, and good afternoon, everybody. Well, with today's discussion by Patty, I thought it'd be good to talk about my recent decision to retire, because it kind of intersects a little bit with the health and what people think about. And so I've obviously thought a lot about it, and I just want to thank you. There's a lot of people in this room that I actually pegged with the questions of how do you think about retirement that maybe made that experience easier. There's also, and I'm, again, a retired finance person, so there's a lot of financial stuff that kind of flows through here, but what I'm going to focus on is what most people and experts really think about is you got to get your financial stuff in order, but think about what brings you joy in retirement and what keeps you active, and so that's what I'm going to focus on today. And what I've found is there's actually a lot of parallels between what advice people give to children and what advice people give to retirees. And so I'm going to talk about three things that kind of key takeaways for me at least, and these apply I think regardless of age, but particularly for retirement. Number one, try new things. Two, constantly be on the outlook for new friends and taking better care of old friendships because you have more time for them now. And three, don't think you have to have all the answers right away. And that's obviously a question that everybody asks you right when you're retired, what are you going to do? And it's okay to say, hey, I don't know, I'm going to figure it out. But obviously with that, you obviously want to work towards things that center you. And the best example in my life, at least, of course, is Rotary, number one. It connects you to all those kinds of things. But the other thing that I've done is that I've joined fitness classes more often. In the past 2 years in Going Strong, I've pushed some of my fitness routine to going to a class environment at the health club. And for many of you that have been to fitness classes at health clubs, you know that a 61-year-old male is not quite the demographic that's down there. So I'm definitely the minority in this class, but these 40 to 60-year-old females is the majority. And I've just found that by showing up consistently, starting conversations, helping newcomers, and being generally friendly, this group has really adopted me, and I'm definitely the better for that, both physically as well as emotionally. And then on another subject, I've also been reading the new biography of Mark Twain by Ron Chernow, and this is the perfect book for retirement. If you've seen any interviews, this book is like this thick. It's over 1,000 pages long, so only a retiree can even hope to get done with that, something like that. And I'm only on page 163. But I thought a couple of quick quotes by Mark Twain, maybe to end things here. One, the secret of getting ahead is getting started. Two, age is an issue of mind over matter. If you don't mind, it doesn't matter. And three, wrinkles should merely indicate where smiles have been. With that, let's stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance in 40 times. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And the four-way test.
Is it truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
And now let's greet everyone.
Good one up there, Scott. Kitty, I'll let you eat. Jordan, hey there. Jeff, hello. Long time to see.
Somebody comes up there and treats the president.
That's right. There is that.
All right, everybody, thank you. We have a few guests today, and as I call your name to welcome you, I would like you to stand and remain standing, and then we'll recognize the group all at once, okay? So first off, we have John Rogers. He is our Rotary 6000 Assistant District Governor of our club. He's been a regular visitor, joins us for coffees from time to time. John's done a great job. So John's here with us today. We have Brenda McGuire, visiting Rotarian, part of the Rotary Global Travelers Club District 5950. She is President CEO of Worldwide Connect. And I just met Brenda and be interested to ask her about this Rotary Global group. Kyle McCormick has two guests, Julia McCormick and Zoe Pins. Julia and Zoe work for the Wealth Consulting Group. And as you all know, Julia is Kyle's better half. We have Don Roberts, former member of our club, a guest of Sue Tempero. And we have Garrett Grimm, sales manager of Citywide Facility Solutions. And Garrett has recently applied for membership to our club. So thanks for that. Welcome, everybody. Now we're on to where in the world is club number 27 for our guests. We are the 27th club, Rotary Club in the world of now over 36,000 clubs around the world. And we take a little Rotary with us when we go into interesting places. First off, we have Kitty. Welcome back, Kitty, after coming back from vacation to Kentucky, where she visited her fellow Rotary Club Executive Director of the Lexington Rotary Club. Lexington, by the way, will host the large club conference in 2026. Next, we have the Stickles in Italy. Jeff and Heather made their way across Italy, and so pleased to go with them and think of Rotary with us. And so if you're going somewhere fun, you can take us with you. You can check out a Where in the World sign from Kitty, and we'd be happy for you to take us along. Next up, did you know? And I have a little connection into the topic today, so I can create a little linkage here. I'm a dog guy. I like dogs, right? So here is a health point about dogs, and maybe you could expand on this or tell me I'm all wet here. But it's been proven, as I'm told, that as you pet a dog, your blood pressure actually goes down, and guess what? The dog's blood pressure does too. Did you know that a dog's nose has 300 million receptors? A human has 5 million. On the other hand, a dog has 1,700 taste buds and a human has 10,000. So that makes sense, right? Dogs are smarter than you think. They can learn up to 250 words or gestures, and they can remember up to 250 places or people, sometimes from many years ago, and they have a sense of time as well. And lastly, did you know that yawning can be contagious not only for humans, but for dogs. So as the master yawns, the dog might go along with you and yawn as well, and I'm told maybe vice versa. And now we will go on to Rotarians on the floor laughing, bring up past President Skeet Wooten, and rarely does anybody yawn when Skeet's up to the podium, so come on up.
It's typically because they're asleep by the time I get up.
Oh!
Hey, this is the last one I'm doing of these, so. Thank you, guys. Yeah, we'd like to welcome back Doug Saltzgaber, who was in Kentucky and then came down with, I guess, a hangover. And Kitty was back immediately, so you guys be the judge. Okay, well, back by popular demand, okay, maybe not. Last week we did dad jokes, and we got a lot of compliments on that, too. So we thought, well, we'll give it another try. Okay, what noise does James Bond's doorbell make? Dong. Ding dong. Okay, how do you make an egg roll? You push it. Yeah, this morning my wife left a note on the refrigerator. She said, it's not working anymore. Goodbye. I opened the fridge and it worked just fine. I'll end on this one. Maybe not. I only drink on days that begin with T. Tuesday, Thursday, today, tomorrow, this day, that day, Saturday, Sunday. Okay, this is it, I promise. What's the difference between a bad joke and a dad joke? The first letter.
I've asked a lot of Skeet and Doug, so I do appreciate all that you did this year, Skeet, so thank you for that. Now I am thrilled to welcome one of two new members today that are part of a dynamic duo. And first up, we'll get to know Jen Miller. And here's a few fun facts about Jen. When Jen has a free day, you might find her taking a road trip to either visit her sister in Kansas City or a close friend in Omaha. Her favorite travel destination, Sedona, Arizona, and she can't wait to go back. One of the best pieces of advice she's ever received is something that she's passing down to her two daughters. Always strive to leave things better than you found them. And something that might surprise you or delight you about Jen is she's a lifelong learner, especially when it comes to exploring philosophy and personal growth. And now a little bit on her background, Jen grew up in Harlan, Iowa, and spent several years in retail management, including a leadership role at Dillard's in Omaha. After moving to Des Moines and meeting her husband Joel, she joined the family pest control business. They've now been working together for over 10 years and are proud to carry on the family legacy. In addition to professional work, she's also deeply committed to mental health awareness and is active in local volunteer efforts. And as a busy mom of two, of Kaya, age 4, and Kinsey, age 2, she's already showing her girls what service and community look like. And now for the final question, which we'd like to have Jen to come up and share in her own words, is what can't you wait to tell your friends about the Rotary organization and say hello to the group as well. So, Jen Miller.
Thank you, Kevin, and good to see everybody this afternoon. I actually knew a couple of people prior to joining the Rotary, and since joining Rotary, it's been a pleasure to get to know some individuals a little bit more, and I'm excited to continue to, as I continue my membership with Rotary, continuing to get to know you all better as well. I really was attracted to the values of the club and also being part of a membership where I share a lot of the same thoughts of just continuing to help and give back. And yeah, I'm just very excited to continue to go down the journey with all of you as a member now of the Rotary Club.
And the next member of the duel is Joel Miller, who's also a part of that same family business. He's the owner of Miller Pest and Termite. On a free day, you'd like to find Joel out on the water at Lake Rathbun, boating, soaking up the outdoors with his family. His favorite way to recharge and spend meaningful time together. A place he's traveled and can't wait to return is Alaska. He took a cruise there and still remembers the breathtaking moment of watching glaciers calve into the ocean. He's looking forward to going back someday, and this time to share the awe-inspiring experience with his daughters. The best piece of advice he's ever received: always strive to be a lifelong learner, a connection with Jen. And it's a principle that continues to shape both his personal and professional journey. Now that you've heard about him, a little bit of what makes him tick, here's our final question for him to answer in his own words. So Joel, do you want to come on up and share what you're excited to tell folks about and just introduce you to the rest of the club? Sure.
Good afternoon, everyone. I was gonna say it's pretty easy for me to, well, actually, but no, you know, I'm in Bob's group in Vistage, and so, you know, it felt right at home when I first came in here and recognized a lot of different people. And, you know, and over the years I've been in EO, a lot of different peer groups, and one of the things that I like the most about being in this group is just the quality of speakers every time, you know, I show up here, whether it's, you know, this meeting, the coffee meetings in the morning. There's some really interesting speakers, especially most of them are generally local. And, yeah, it just keeps my mind open to what's actually happening in the community, and yeah, love to be a part of the group.
It's great to have you both, Joel and Jen. Yep. And now I'd like to invite up Graham Gillette, Vice Chair of our program committee, to introduce our speaker.
Pleasure to do this today, but before I start, Scott, your words of inspiration struck a chord with me today. You know, sometimes when you hear a piece of advice, you're supposed to listen. When you hear it twice, you probably need to act on it. Twice in 2 days, I heard something very similar. I have the pleasure and honor to be a part of a writer's workshop group, and yesterday one of the members was sharing a letter that he had written to his future self. And he's an interesting, very smart guy. He had spent some time in prison. He's a drug addict, but this future letter to his future self, he talked about always choosing the slower path, and a little bit like your thought. You know, you don't always have to have all the answers. And having heard that in 2 days, I think I'm being told something. So I'm going to take a little bit slower. But with that being said, I had the great fortune to introduce our speaker today, and Patty stepped in here, you know, as the program committee sometimes work. We had a hole to fill real quick, and she stepped up, which is kind of a testament to this club, right? We have so many great members. We probably need to do a little bit better about hearing from each other every once in a while. But with Patty Quinless, we have a real gem today. So, you know, in thinking about this introduction, you know, except for maybe a pioneer and occasional nomad, you know, humans tend to clump. And we form communities for the betterment of both individual and group. Communities with tenets based in equity are the ones that endure and flourish. Equity ensures that no one gets left behind. Here, in that type of community, fresh water, nutritious food, shelter, education, and healthcare are accessible to all. It is this equity, the foundation of a free society, to which our speaker has dedicated her life's work. Dr. Patricia Quinless was the medical director and state epidemiologist at the Iowa Department of Public Health for 24 years. She is now semi-retired. I question semi, I haven't heard about what she's done. Continuing to teach about healthy lifestyles and about reducing the risk of developing cognitive impairment and dementia, including on the behavior changes to prevent dementia, working keys to dementia prevention with Rhode Island's Hospital, the Iowa Health Department, and the Des Moines Area YMCA. She recently started the nonprofit organization Brain Help and Hope to support community efforts to increase the health of seniors. Her background includes, hold on to your hat, includes working as a clinical microbiologist, training microbiologists while a Peace Corps volunteer in Nepal, a Master's of Public Health from Johns Hopkins. I also have a Master's from Johns Hopkins, a medical degree from the University of Wisconsin, working as a field epidemiologist in the CDC's Epidemic Intelligence Service, and is a professor at the University of Iowa teaching classes in public health and medicine. She has testified before Congress twice, served for 5 years as the chair of the National Biodefense Science Board, and in 2009 she received an honorary Doctor of Science from Iowa State University. Welcome, Dr. Quintus.
Sounds like a lot, but I'll just say I've been very, very lucky in my life. When I got asked to come up today, I thought, well, I could do my usual spiel, but a lot of people, and I would imagine all of you, know a lot of the things that you need to do to be healthy. I don't need to stand up here and say smoking is bad for you, etc. So I thought today, what I'd do is talk a little bit about some new information that's coming out, and to emphasize not only body fitness but brain fitness. I don't know about all of you, but as I get older, I really want to keep my brain in good shape. So I'm going to talk about that, and then I'm going to give out a few rules of thumb just for you to think about in the coming days. So here we go. Yeah, I did it. One of the best things, of course, we can do is eating. And I will just say one of the things I love about coming here in Rotary, I can always get a really healthy meal. So kudos to whoever figures out the food that they have here. But I thought a couple of the healthy rules of thumb. And half of your plate should be fruits and vegetables, about a fourth should be whole grains, and about a fourth should be lean meats. And then one of the things that we stress a lot, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, is drinking water. Water is just critical for our bodies to work well. So the oil that our bodies need to work well, and our brains need to think well. So about half of all the water you drink should be or half of all the fluids you drink should just be plain old water. People always say, well, what is the ideal diet? And I think most of you have heard about the Mediterranean diet and all that, and you can look that up. But basically, eat a lot of plants and vegetables, use liquid oils, which would be like olive oil, things like that, low-fat dairy, nuts, bean, fish. We had fish today for lunch, it was delicious. I'm going to talk a little bit more about fiber and low salt, and then one of my favorites is, did you know that tea, coffee, and dark chocolate are really good for your body and your brain? I was telling him I have a whole tray in my refrigerator with dark chocolate in it. So, and then I'll talk a little bit more about alcohol. That's another thing that people often ask about. So just some of the more recent things people have found out about the Mediterranean diet. It's powerful, has antioxidant abilities, it lowers inflammation, it encourages healthy behaviors, lowers the risk of cardiovascular disease, diabetes, other metabolic conditions, and basically plays a really good role in keeping us healthy. So if anyone wants to know what diet I propose you should eat, it's the Mediterranean diet. If you also have some cognitive impairment in your family, people with dementia, Alzheimer's, you might look into the MIND diet, which is the Mediterranean diet, but just with a little emphasis on leafy green vegetables and berries and low salt. But it's basically the Mediterranean diet. So we do promote that in the classes I teach because people who follow the Mediterranean diet, believe it or not, are at quite a bit lower risk of having cognitive decline, and that's sort of the first step into dementia, Alzheimer's, etc. Okay, people always ask, okay, so how much of this stuff should I eat? And people are sometimes surprised by this. Added sugar, and that's sugar that's added to your food, that's not sugar that basically is in food naturally. All of the sugar that's in things like fruits and vegetables and dairy products, those are all free. You get to have as many of that as you want, unless maybe you're diabetic and then talk to your doctor, but basically those are all free. When we talk about added sugar, those are the sugars that are added to our diet, and we're just looking at those wonderful treats on our tables. Those are basically added sugar. But how much should you have? I hate to tell you this, but not much. Right now the recommendation for women is basically 6 teaspoons a day. That is not very much. Men get a little bit more because you're a little bit bigger. Now, proteins, we've all heard stuff about, oh, we should be eating lots of protein, and yes, we should. And that should be about 50 grams a day. It depends a little bit on what you do. People who are bodybuilding maybe need a little bit more. If you have kidney disease, probably you should be eating less, but basically about 50 grams a day. I'm going to talk a little bit more about fiber. Fiber is sort of the new health thing. I don't know how many of you heard of fiber is really important, but it really is. And we should, that's probably, of all the things on here, that's the one thing that most Americans really fall down on, is fiber in their diet. Sodium, which is salt, basically less than 2,300 milligrams a day. I'll just tell you, 1 can of soup often has somewhere around 2,000 to 3,000 milligrams in it, just in 1 can of soup. So you really have to watch that. And then fats. Easiest way to remember about fats is eat fats that are liquid at room temperature, and be sort of careful about fats that are not liquid at room temperature. So that'd be things like butter, lard, beef tallow, things like that. Okay, so I do want to talk about fiber though. When we think back about what our ancestors, even 100 years ago on the farm here in Iowa, what people are eating, they were eating a lot of fruits and vegetables, a lot of whole grains, etc. Got a lot of fiber in their diet. What do we do today? We eat a lot of white bread. I grew up on Wonder Bread. I don't know about you guys, but that's what I took to school with me. We don't eat that many fruits and vegetables anymore. A lot of processed foods, etc., which the fiber's taken out. But the bottom line is fiber is incredibly important to our health, and there are 2 different kinds of fiber, soluble and insoluble. Soluble is the one that, well, if you've ever put like Metamucil or something like that in a glass and it sort of becomes a gel, that's soluble because it absorbs water. And then there's insoluble, and that's the one that moves things on through our gut, which also is really important, and I won't go into that. But we get these basically from fruits and vegetables and nuts and whole grains. It lowers our risk of cancer, and you've probably all heard about young people are having more risk of cancer these days, especially colon cancer. And they think that that may be directly attributable to younger people not eating as much fiber. But it's very important. And just in case you ever want to know, spend a day or 2 just looking at how much fiber you eat, and I would bet, if you're all like the general public, somewhere about 80 to 90% of you will not be eating what you should be eating, which is that's a large percentage of us, especially for something so important. People often ask me about ultra-processed foods. That's sort of become one of the buzzwords today, is what about ultra-processed foods? And the bottom line is, yeah, these seem to be a problem. This is not something we should have a lot of in our diets. There have been links found between junk food and a faster rate of cognitive decline, substantially faster rate, and basically people who eat a lot of processed, ultra-processed foods can have higher rates of dementia later on, etc. So people will say, well, what is ultra-processed foods? And I'll tell you, everybody's got their own idea of what is ultra-processed food. So I'm going to give you a couple of rules of thumb in just a minute. So this is, when you go to the grocery store, this is what you should do. You should basically do most of your shopping on the periphery of the grocery store. What's on the periphery? The bakery, fruits and vegetables, the meat department, and dairy, right? Okay, those are all basically basic foods, right? You're buying the apple, you're buying the steak, you're buying the milk. These are not ultra-processed foods. These are all basic foods. Your grandmother would look at that and go, that's food, right? Okay. So basically, don't buy anything that your grandmother would not recognize as food. And by the way, I've stolen these from a lot of other very smart people. I didn't make these up. So if you look at an ingredients, and there's like 500 ingredients, and 3 of them are chemicals that you don't know what the name of and what it means, and you would never have that in your pantry because it's not food, you put it back on the shelf. Those are ultra-processed foods. Half of all fluids should be plain water. Oh, and I like, only eat what you can pronounce. Okay, so those chemicals, just put them back on the shelf. The less ingredients in the ingredients thing, when you turn the container over, or the can over, or the box over, 5 or fewer is the best. And your cart should be colorful. What do I mean by that? When you go to the to the vegetable section and you're deciding what kind of potatoes you should buy. Well, if you've got the choice between a white potato and a purple potato, guess which one's healthier? The purple potato. So just think about that. Buy plain versions of food, plain yogurt, plain oatmeal, plain brown rice. And people often will say to me, well, fruits and vegetables are very expensive. And they're right, they are. But most frozen fruits and vegetables are quite cheap. And what most people don't know is they actually are better for you than the fresh. Why? Okay, this time of year, let's say you go to buy strawberries. Well, they're not being grown in Iowa right now. They're not ripe yet, right? We're still in the beginning. So those strawberries are coming from some distance away, maybe even all the way from South America. So after you pick something, it actually will start to decrease in nutritional value. And a lot of times if it's got a large transportation ways to go, they'll pick it unripe, so it'll ripen on its way. But while it's doing that, it's losing nutrients. If you buy a frozen food, well, they pick it when it's ripe, it goes across the road and they freeze it. So most frozen fruits and vegetables are healthier, especially in the wintertime in Iowa, than the fresh. So don't hesitate to buy frozen fruits and vegetables, and they're much cheaper. So again, your cart should be just like your plate, should be half produce, meaning fruits and vegetables, a 4th lean protein, and a 4th whole grains. I must admit, one of the things I love doing at grocery stores is looking at other people's carts. And the other day I was going through, and a young man was in front of me, and he had, I swear, 15 frozen pizzas, and the soft drinks, the 6-pack sort of over the side of the cart. And I thought, well, I hope he's having a party, that this is not what he typically eats. But I didn't ask him. People ask about alcohol. If you remember 10 years ago or 20 years ago, we were saying, oh, you should drink a glass of red wine, right, every night. Well, I hate to tell you that, but that's really been pulled back. Those original studies, and I can go into it if you're interested, were done incorrectly. Today, the World Health Organization basically says there is no amount of alcohol that is safe. Canada now has gone down to saying a human being, male or female, should only drink 3 to 6 servings a week. Now, the United States still suggests no more than 1 serving a day. I would guess that's going to go down. So why is that? Well, alcohol is carcinogenic, causes blood pressure to go up. It impairs your memory and more. So I would just say alcohol should be one of those special treats that you have once in a while, but it should not be a daily occurrence if you want to keep your brain in good shape. By the way, I put there 1 serving, what that is, in a red Solo cup, and people are surprised. 1 ounce for liquor and only 5 ounces for wine. That's not a full wine glass, by the way, guys. That's like a 1/3 of a wine glass. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about moving. Sorry. Oops. Okay. Here we go. Did you know that to get some of the most important benefits out of moving, all you have to do is move 30 minutes 3 times a week. That is not very much. And movement can be anything. Can be if you're living in a house and you're going up and down the stairs doing laundry, that counts. If you're taking the dog for a walk around the block, that counts. So it doesn't take much. Try to give about 7,500 steps a day is sort of the point at which you get the best benefit out of walking. Do more than that if you want, but that 10,000 has now been shown not to really, 10,000 steps a day, that was actually a marketing ploy, not so much a real scientific thing. But anyway, walking is one of the best things we can do for our bodies. So which is the best fitness program? And I'll just tell you, science doesn't say that there's one kind of fitness that's better than others. The best one is just the one you enjoy, the one you will do regularly, the one that has variety, and the one that you'll do for the rest of your life. And I tell people when I talk about these things, it's not like, well, I'll do all those things tomorrow and then I don't ever have to do them again. We're talking about these are lifelong habits that you really need to do until you're done with life. And hopefully you die with your brain and your body in pretty good shape. I'm going to talk about a couple things that people don't think about when they think about health. And one of them is to keep your brain sharp. And you're all doing that right now. It's one of that use it or lose it kind of things. You've got to keep your mind mentally engaged. Just using your brain will improve your memories, your ability to learn, etc. And you may not know it, but you can actually increase your brain size and the amount of neurons and synapses you have in your brain just by using it, just like a muscle. If you use it, it will grow. If you can continue to stay sharp your whole life, you will actually decrease your risk of dementia and Alzheimer's by somewhere around 50%, which is huge. There's no medicine, by the way, that will do that right now. Another one that people don't think about, but we really started thinking about, especially with COVID, was the importance of social connections. I don't know how many of you during COVID started feeling a little bit dull because you were basically being kept away from other people, etc. There's a real phenomenon there that if we don't use our social connections, don't be around people, don't talk to people, our brains start shutting down. So there is a link between being socially active and basically reducing your risk of dementia. And there's also a lot of evidence that it's just good for our overall health to be socially active, which, by the way, you're all doing right now, so congratulations. But they found that social engagement is also associated with reduced risk of disability, mortality, may reduce the risk of depression, and remaining socially active can support, again, brain health and reduce the risk of dementia. And one of the things Scott was talking about retiring, I'm sure you've all heard the story of the person who retires, goes home, sits on the couch, and is dead 6 months later. A lot of that is just because they stop using their body, stop using their brain, so their brain basically gives up. So we really need to keep that up. So the question is, how much do we need? So I'd like everybody just to think about this for a minute. How many of these people do you have in your life? Well, you should have 1 to 3 people that we call you. The person you call 3 o'clock in the morning, they're not going to ask, why are you calling me? Why are you saying you need me to be there? They just say, I'll be there in 5 minutes, shut down the phone, and boom, they're at your door. They are people who have your backs. It doesn't really matter what you need them for, but they'll be there. Now, most of the time when we talk about social engagements, we think about friends, and we need to have somewhere around 5 to 6 good friends, people who understand us, know about us, they want to do things with you, you catch up with them, etc. Those are really important. But the last one people don't think about, and these are called consequential strangers. These are the people that make you feel like you belong in your community. And I would say that most of the people in this room are consequential strangers. I may not always remember your name, especially if you don't have your name tag on. I may not remember what you told me 2 months ago about your kid, but I recognize you, I know you, you make me feel like I belong here, I walk in, I feel welcomed. You all are in my consequential strangers group. And that could be anybody. I laugh about this. The greatest consequential stranger is you've got a dog, you take your dog for your walk, you meet somebody else that you meet every week, they have their dog out, you don't know their name, but you know the name of their dog. That's a consequential stranger. Okay. Another one that we've learned more and more about is just how critically important sleep is to us. People need somewhere around 7 to 9 hours of good quality sleep a night. But as we get older, it becomes harder and harder to do that. Almost everybody in the classes I teach has trouble sleeping, and I'll tell you, I have trouble sleeping now and then. So, but sleep is probably the most effective thing we can do for our brains and our body, and it increases our healthy lifespan. Sleep is essential for consolidating our memories and filing them away for later recall. So if we want to remember things, we've got to have good quality sleep. The last thing is we've got a thing in our brains called the lymphatic system, which is the thing that I always think about, the little sweet street sweepers. You know, we see them around Des Moines all the time, right? Those people with the green, they're always sweeping things up. We've got those people in our brains. They basically sweep out all the waste products that our brain makes during the day. Those waste products are called amyloid, tau proteins. If you've learned anything about Alzheimer's, you'll know that if you want to diagnose that, you basically wait for the person to drive, you slice up their brain, and you look for amyloid and tau protein in their brain. That's the thing that gives the person Alzheimer's disease. So we've got to make sure that the lymphatic system is sweeping out these things every day, keeping our brains nice and clean so we don't get things like Alzheimer's. And to do that, we have to get into deep sleep. Deep sleep is where that lymphatic system works. That means taking little naps all day long doesn't do it. You're only at a very superficial level of sleep. You've got to have at least 3 hours or so to get into that deep sleep so your lymphatic system turns on and gets rid of all of those waste products. Just a couple things. If you're having trouble sleeping, these are things that are recommended. Make sure that your room is as dark as possible. They found that even like the little bit of light off of like your modem or your TV set or whatever, that can actually disturb your sleep. So maybe tonight when you get home, turn off all the lights and then see if there's any lights in your bedroom. If there is, just get a pieces of tape and tape them all down. They will disturb your sleep. If you are having trouble with insomnia, please don't take sleeping pills until you absolutely have to. Sleeping pills actually are not good for your brains. Guess what? They turn your brain off. Guess what we don't want to do as we get older? We don't want to turn our brain off. In fact, the worst drug for your brain is called diphenhydramine or Benadryl. That's what they put in Tylenol PM or ibuprofen PM. PM means, of course, sleep. Well, it turns your brain off. So anyway, there's a bunch of things you can do. You can go online. There's something called cognitive behavioral therapy, free from places like Cleveland Clinic. Also, using light therapy. I use that in the wintertime, which is basically just getting full spectrum light directly into your eyes for about 15 minutes every morning. Believe it or not, that helps you sleep that night. And those you can just buy at Walmart. People don't think about that, but we need that in the wintertime because it gets dark here, and it's dark often when we wake up. Other things, relaxation therapy. If you are having trouble sleeping and need something, melatonin is one that we tell people to try first. It's a naturally occurring hormone that your brain actually makes. So you're just augmenting a natural hormone. Okay, very briefly, chronic stress. Hopefully none of you have chronic stress, but this is another thing that can severely impact our general health. It makes cortisol go up, shrinks our hippocampus, which is the part of our brain that remembers things, so it increases our risk of getting cognitive impairment, etc. And it increases your blood pressure, and then your heart disease risk goes up, etc. So if you have stress, that is something I would suggest you go and get some kind of help with, because that is incredibly bad for our bodies and our brains. Okay, so real quickly I'm going to talk about some new information. Vitamins are coming up, and I'll just say in general, I don't believe in supplements. So many of them are just somebody trying to make money. But there are some vitamins that do make a difference. Vitamin D, they're finding more and more correlated with good health. Unfortunately, vitamin D is made by our skin. When sunlight hits it, and guess what happens to us in the wintertime? We're inside, and then if we do go outside, we're covered with coats and hats and everything. So vitamin D is one thing that we often will be deficient in, especially in the wintertime. So that is one thing that you might want to look at. We do recommend people take a multivitamin, just a once a day kind of vitamin. Why? The mega doses of vitamin D and E and all those actually are found to be detrimental to your health. So you want to just take the amount you need every single day and no more. Some other ones, vitamin K, vitamin B12, all of these are found in a good healthy diet. If you're eating a good Mediterranean diet, you'll probably get all of these, except for maybe vitamin D. So those are the vitamins that that you want to think about. And then people always ask me about vaccines. And actually, when we look at vaccines related to dementia, which is the main thing that I'm working on these days, people who get the annual flu vaccine are at lower risk of dementia. They've now come out the shingles vaccine, lowers your risk of dementia. And the Tdap-TD, which is the tetanus, diphtheria, acellular pertussis, which is why we narrow it down to Tdap. Actually, they found the people who had that were 30% less likely to get dementia. We don't know quite why that is, but we know that it's true. People sometimes ask me about COVID. The COVID is so new, we really don't know if that reduces your risk of dementia or not, but it certainly does reduce your risk of COVID. So that's another vaccine you might want to think about taking. Last thing I'll really talk about is dehydration. We don't think about dehydration that much. I see everybody sort of drink their water here, but we don't drink enough water. And I'll just tell you a story. My aunt a year ago, who's got cognitive impairment, was sitting on the couch next to me, and she kept on taking her credit card out of her wallet, then she'd put it back in, then she'd take it out again, put it back in. Finally I said, you know, Aunt, what are you doing? And she said, oh, I need to get my credit card out to pay the Uber driver to take the cookie to your Uncle Bob. Well, my Uncle Bob was in another state. We had no cookies, and we certainly hadn't called any Uber driver. So, but I noticed that she had not been drinking much water, so I went and got rehydration fluid for her, made her drink it, and 15 minutes later she was back to her normal cognition. She just had gotten dry. So just be aware of that, and women tend to get dehydrated faster than men. How much should you drink? 2 to 3 liters a day of fluids. That's a lot, but you know, that's what keeps our brains and our body working. I'm going to end up here. If you have any interest in this, on our website we do have a quiz. It takes about 15 minutes. You can walk through it, and it will tell you basically what things you're doing right in your lifestyle and all of that to reduce your risk of these diseases. And I'll tell you sort of what you maybe want to think about working on. It's called the Save Your Brain Quiz. It's at our website, brainhealthandhope.org. And it's just free. You can just take it. And it gives you some ideas of things to work on. I'm going to real quick do just a little bit of a advertisement. We do have classes going on. There are brain and body fitness programs both in the community around Iowa for getting people on the way to having good, healthy behaviors. A lot of this stuff, but anyway, if you're interested, see me. And something we're sort of excited about, we now have partnered with Broadlawns, and we're in talking stages with Mary Greeley up in Ames for a class for people who are already having some cognitive problems and their care partner. And we found that we've had 2 courses so far, and almost all improved their lifestyle behaviors, all improved their fitness, and half of the people basically improve their cognition, and that's based on the MOCA test, which is done in a doctor's office, so it's a well-known test. So if you have anybody in your family that's starting to have problems, people think, well, there's nothing I can do. No, there's a lot you can do, and in fact, you can reduce you can cause your cognitive problems to go back to normal. They estimate right now about 1/3 to half of all people with the right lifestyle can cause their cognition to go back to normal. Okay, so, wait a minute, I want Spock up there. Yes, I want all of you to live long and prosper. Good luck.
Well, the good thing is, we'll have an opportunity to ask Patty our questions, and so I'm sure you're going to get a lot of those. That was a great presentation. I ran into Patty at a healthy aging event, like at the Civic Center. They were presenting, And in talking with Patty, he's like, you could have given this presentation better than them, and you didn't disappoint. So thank you. Upcoming meetings. We're going to learn about the Rollins Mansion next week, followed by the CEO of EMC Insurance, and then we'll have a biggie on June 26th, the Police and Firefighter of the Year Awards and the passing of the gavel. Our next fuel meeting is this coming Tuesday, June 10th, 9 to 10 a.m. at Freedom Blend Coffee. The last one of my year, and let's make it a good one. We usually have 15 to 20 people. Let's get over 20 people today. We have Claudia Schabel, who is CEO of Schabel Solutions, going to present and or talk to us, I should say. But it's also an opportunity just to get to know other Rotarians better over a cup of coffee. So if you haven't been to one, or you have, I hope to see you there next Tuesday at 9 a.m. at Freedom Blend Coffee. And now, we'll bring it to a close. The 3-year plan is a 3-year plan, right? So it's going to continue, but just remember as you proceed in your week, our 3 strategic pillars, which is building relationships. Great way to do that is come to Freedom Blend Coffee. Speak about our club, promote our club, ask somebody to come for a visit, and making an impact in our community. If we do all 3 of those things, our club will continue to get stronger and stronger. So keep that in mind this week. Have a great week, everybody. We are adjourned.